Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Atul.
Hi, I just want to let you know that I'm not quite back to my desk. So I just wanted to let you know that since I know we're close to maybe not having quorum because Jim's not here and of course Natalie's stepped down. So I'm here, I'm available, but I won't be fully present for maybe another 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioners, we are going to accommodate the ones that are arriving just a little late here, so we'll start 2 or 3 minutes past our regular start time. Just wanted to let you know.
Natalie, are you in? I see your name. Oh, I have to allow her to talk. Hang on.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and I'm trying to promote you to panelist. Is anything showing up on your screen?
Yes, I just got it. It says join as panelist.
Oh, good. And if you
I should click on that.
Yes, please. That will give you a camera for this session, part of the session. Good. Okay, thank you.
Are you at your desk?
So. Part of that was cut off 'cause I had to,
Okay. Let's see, am I unmuted?
you are unmuted now, yes.
Commissioner Desmani, are you at your desk yet?
Yes, I'm just leaving my other device.
You bet, we're hearing your echo.
Yeah, I was double on two devices. I'm sorry. I'm fine now. I'm good.
All right, well, it sounds like everything is going well. So, okay. January 13th, 2022, Whatcom County Planning Commission meeting is called to order. Just a second here, let me get the cheaters on here. So I'll call the roll. Robert Bartel,
Here.
Kelvin Barton, that's me, I'm here. Atul Desmani,
Here.
Jim Hansen. Jim is not here. Stephen Jackson,
Here.
Kimberly Lund. Kimberly is not here. John Mayberry,
Here.
and Dominic Masseri.
Here.
Right. Please join me in the flag salute. And Tammy, our planning commissioner coordinator, will put the flag up on the screen here for us too. Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, it is time now for department update. That would be Director Personius. Would you give us department update?
Morning, commissioners, sorry. Happy New Year, everybody. Good to see you guys. Couple things to talk about a little bit before we get going. The first thing I wanted to do was introduce Steve Robert. And Steve is our new, Steve wave and show everybody. There's Steve. Steve is our new assistant director here at PDS, and we are very, very lucky and very pleased to have him. He just joined us a couple months ago. Steve came over from as deputy managing director of the Department of Commerce for the state. And he was in charge of coordinating all the cities and counties growth management needs and activities on the west side of the state. And so Steve has a lot of experience, former planning director himself, and lots of experience in the permitting realm as well as the growth management realm. So we are really super excited, me in particular, to have Steve on board. And Steve, you want to introduce yourselves to the guys?
Yeah, I cut down my remarks, Mark. You told me to limit it to 15, and I think I'm down to about 30 minutes. So I'm kidding. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. I think this is an amazing place. And like I say, just really excited to be here and start digging into things with you guys. So hi.
So Steve and I are going to be, we're working on the 2022 PDS work program, on the long range work program, on the legislative agendas and those kinds of things. So we're going to be working on that. He's been working with staff on that, and we're going to be bringing that to you guys and talking to you guys about that at your annual business meeting, that first meeting in February. So that's something to look forward to. So you will be seeing a lot more Steve. Steve will be kind of replacing me, taking over for me at these planning commission meetings as we go forward this year. So, and I think you'll be in really, really good hands with him. Cliff's here tonight to talk about, take you through our annual miscellaneous code amendments package to kick off this year. It's actually last year's amendments, but we're always kind of trying to get caught up with things. Quick update for you guys on the legislative items at the council. Your council's still working through your recommendations on the marijuana code update, tiny homes, and the open space recommendations. We had our first meeting with them of the year just day before yesterday, and they got reorganized as the new council for 2022. And so just kind of getting things kicked off this year. Quick update on schedule. We had anticipated coming at your next meeting in January, bringing forward the wireless code amendments. But it looks like that's going to take additional time. Matt Ahmed's been working on those and reaching out to the wireless industry, different providers. And so they've asked for a little bit more time for commenting and working with staff and working through some of the issues on that. So we're going to have to probably push that back to February or March before we're going to get that package all kind of put together. So
Can I interrupt for just a minute? Commissioner Desmani, I believe, would like to ask a question.
Yes, sir. We're past the topic. I'll follow up later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's likely that we're going to cancel your next meeting, assuming you get through all the code scrub stuff tonight. And so that February 10th meeting will be your next, we anticipate that being your next meeting. And that will also be your annual business meeting. So that's where I mentioned Steve and I will be talking to you. We kind of want to do a world workshop kind of format with you, Q&A, hear your thoughts on things. We'll talk about our work program, kind of roles and responsibilities and everything that we're doing, and have you guys opportunity to kind of weigh in on those things as well as process things and stuff like that. So that's where that sits. Also at the February 10th annual meeting, your annual business meeting, we're going to seat 2 new planning commissioners. Julie Jefferson, who will be replacing Natalie McClendon, who is rotating off the commission, and Alvin Scott Van Dalen, who will be replacing Commissioner Mayberry. And so those will be 2 new members that will be coming on at the February 10th meeting, which sort of segues into I just wanted to introduce and thank both Commissioners McClendon and Mayberry, obviously, for their time and their efforts and their diligence over these last years. Natalie, you came on the Planning Commission in January of 2014, which seems like a long time ago, more than a decade ago, but it was only 8 years. And I just wanted to thank you, obviously, for your commitment and your diligence during that time. You are a wonderful public participation advocate, as evidenced by your support for and promotion of increasing our outreach, not just ours, but the outreach capabilities of the county as a whole. And that effort is going to have legs as we go forward. And so, my gosh, I think, Natalie, I was thinking back to 2014, and I got to the county in the fall of 2012. And so you have been along for the ride for oil and for water, and just about everything in between. And I just want to say how much I appreciate your diligence and your level-headed approach and pragmatic approach to how we go about our business and regulating land use and water use as well. So thank you very much for your time. I understand you're leaving the county, and there is a wonderful certificate of appreciation either in your hands or on the way to your hands as we speak. And
Thanks,
then
Mark.
secondarily, Mr. Mayberry, thank you for you're welcome. And we're not done. I'm just giving the intro. So Kelvin is going to have a few more words to say about all this. But John, just thank you for your 4-year term. You chose not to re-enlist, which is completely understandable. But I thank you for all your efforts. And again, your diligence and attention to the details and the importance of this stuff. I know sometimes it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's important. And I appreciate your earnestness and your commitment to the agricultural community here in Whatcom County. So there will also be a fantastic certificate of appreciation on its way to you shortly. So thank you both for your service. And Kelvin, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
First, I'd like to talk about Natalie. There was a hole when I called the roll, Natalie, and we will miss you. And I was just thinking of a few notes. Natalie is the one that several years ago asked me if I would consider being chair of the Planning Commission. And I appreciated your confidence, Natalie. I tried to think of a couple of things that, there are many things that stand out, but one that I remember is when discussion will go along for a while and we'll be in it, Natalie's hand will go back up and there will be a really pointed question that makes a difference and kind of undid the log jam. I appreciated that. And then I commend you for bringing up and seeing through the public participation plan. Congratulations, it's very appreciated. And I want to wish you the best on this new page in your life. And what I'd like to do now, we kind of have a seniority here, and so the next longest member after myself is Commissioner Desmani. Commissioner Desmani, would you say a few words?
Sure, I'd love to. And by the way, Commissioner Mayberry is not re-enlisting is news to me. So I'm actually sorry to hear that because I've really enjoyed your contributions over the last several years. And I wanted to particularly express appreciation of your focus on looking at the details and concerns as it relate to the business community and agricultural land use issues, because it's that balance that allows us to do good work. And really want to express my appreciation for you representing those issues. It'll put a little bit of responsibility on your replacement and the rest of us to make sure that we pay attention to those issues going forward. So, but hopefully we're up to the challenge. Natalie is a long-term friend, and Natalie encouraged me to join the Planning Commission and was supportive of me when I decided to run for PUD. And for better or worse, whatever damage I've caused in this community, Natalie's partially responsible. I very much appreciated her for the beginning. When Natalie ran for office herself, my backhanded compliment was she reeks of integrity. And I really mean that is that, that dedication to not making assumptions, not jumping to conclusions and assuming the best about people and their intentions is something that we could use more broadly in our community. Certainly what this planning commission has been about, there's no time when this in my experience where this group shone brighter than during the Cherry Point amendments. And of course, both John and Natalie were exemplary during that whole process too. And I'm just really grateful. And I have a resolution that I'd like to propose the Planning Commission adopt specifically about Natalie. John, hopefully you're going to be back in February for our last meeting. So or if not, we'll pass it in your absence, but I'll come up with a resolution for you too, now that I know that you're not going to be back. And when we're ready, Kelvin, I'd like to read that resolution.
Okay, we'll get back to you on the resolution, and let's move on down. And Commissioner Masseri, and we'll talk more about John in a minute. If it might be easier to let's talk about Natalie and the impact he's had. So Commissioner Masseri, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Natalie's been on the whole time I've been here, and I've always seen you as being kind of a senior member of the Planning Commission and having so much institutional knowledge that I felt has guided us and kept us on track often. And I think we're really missing out having you leave, and we're going to have to pick up the slack and figure it out, I guess. So I've been very pleased to serve with you.
Commissioner Jackson, any words for Natalie?
Of course. Yeah, I echo everything that's been said so far. Natalie was one of the first people who I met in Whatcom County on the politics scene. I don't know if she remembers. I'm sure she doesn't because I'm rather forgettable. But I didn't know that she was on the Planning Commission when I got appointed. I was delighted that she was, because I knew that she would be somebody who I could lean on to help me along the way. And certainly I did. And it's been great to serve with you. And I was very saddened to hear that you're leaving Whatcom County, not just the Planning Commission, but also Whatcom County, because you're an institution here. So we are a lesser community without you.
Commissioner Mayberry, go ahead.
Yeah, Natalie, it's been a pleasure to get to know you. I guess the biggest thing that sticks out for me for you is how passionate you are about this process and making sure it gets done right, holding us to the rules, making sure we're efficient with our time. And I also, just on a personal note, just really appreciated the fact you came out to that ag tour that we did. That it means a lot that you take interest in that. So sad to see you leave.
Commissioner Bartell.
Natalie, you've been a champion of the environment for sure. Your depth of knowledge with rules and procedures, something I really aspired to. I know it's going to take me years to get anywhere near where you're at, but I just, again, really so appreciate that. But I don't think enough can be said tonight and in the future for the impact that you're leaving the community, the spearheading the public participation, input, outreach piece. That's going to be huge moving forward in this community, and just so appreciate it. It just shows your huge commitment to our community. You always came prepared, certainly looked up to that, and appreciated hearing your input on everything. And, enough said about that. I think it's been a pleasure really working with you. And I just wish you my very best in all the future. And likewise, kind of saddened to hear that you're leaving the community, but the other community is getting a really wonderful person. So thank you.
Okay, commissioners, would you join me in a round of applause for Natalie McClendon?
Gee whiz, guys, I didn't expect this at all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot to go through in 8 years. As Mark said, we started doing the comp plan almost as soon as I was appointed. And no, I guess it was a year afterwards, but yeah, it's been an enormous education. And I will have a proposal in your open comments because I can't let it go. But I also wanted to say that the public participation initiative is not complete. We kind of got sidetracked by Whatcom County being flooded and then various other things. It just got to be, staff just had too many other things to worry about. So, but I will, even though I am now in Yakima, I moved here on Tuesday. I will continue to work with the group, and we're almost done, and to present recommendations to the council. So I want to see that through, because I think, as others have said, I think it will make a big difference. And I'm also noticing just the fact that we brought up public participation with staff. We did a survey to staff, and I think there's just by doing that, there just becomes the staff realizes that, oh yeah, we should be paying attention to that, even if we don't pass any specific concrete changes and policies. Just gotta keep bringing it up, because that's what makes our democracy. So thanks again. I really appreciate it.
So, Commissioner Mayberry, we'd like to just express our appreciation to you. And I was thinking about, one, I really appreciated what you brought about the agricultural practices and the agricultural history that you brought to the Planning Commission. It really made a difference in some of our decisions. And some of even our most momentous recommendations that the Planning Commission made were made better by the information that you brought to us, the input you provided. And I was thinking about one, and on the surface, we thought it was controversial, but one when we were talking about gravel steeping. And when the floods happened, I think it was Whatcom News, they made the comment, or somebody up in the Everson Sumas area made the comment that the river had been scalped for gravel in recent years. And the question was, would that have made a difference on the flooding? And I know, I don't think any of us were in favor of it being scalped simply as a commercial gesture, but you pointed out that allowing it to happen in areas that it might reduce flooding. I just remember that, and I think it made a difference for us. And I want to thank you for the input that you had, and wish you the best in your new endeavor. I know you have some other things that you're going to undertake, and I wish you the best for that. And thank you. And then Natalie, you are here. Are there any words you would like to say to Commissioner Mayberry?
Yes. We were clearly on opposite ends as we began the Cherry Point amendment process. And I just felt like, through that process in particular, through that issue, we came to really understand what each other was looking for. And I felt I respected your position, John, and I felt I felt like I got that back from you. And it could have been a really difficult and unpleasant process. And I think your patience really with us and our patience with you really paid off in coming up with a good proposal for the council. And I really appreciate that.
Commissioner Desmond, any additional words for Commissioner Mayberry?
No, I already had a chance. I guess I spoke out of turn, but yeah, very much echo the sentiments of Natalie. And yeah, I'm just going to be thinking especially hard about how to work with, I don't know if anybody knows the new planning commissioner that's kind of filling in John's capacity. John, I don't know if you know that person, or if the ag issues are something that we can still bug you on once in a while. And you know, that maybe pushing my luck on this, John, but we definitely would appreciate the ability to make sure we fill that capacity, that understanding, as issues require it.
Yeah, I do know Scott, just so you guys know, I reached out to him and was the one who encouraged him to apply. He's really good. You guys are gonna like him. He's got ties to the farming community, and he also runs a small construction company, does a lot of work out in the county. So he's gonna have a lot of knowledge as far as land use and code. So you'll like him. He's a great guy.
Commissioner Masseri, some words for.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed when I heard that you weren't re-upping, but I do understand it. I think the loss on the ag side is definitely something we're going to have to really work to fill. And just in general, your thoroughness and your willingness to keep pushing an issue till you get a level of satisfaction with it, I really always appreciated. So I think it's a loss, but I wish you the best.
Commissioner Jackson, getting lost here on my list.
I'm sad that John's leaving. I reiterate what everyone else has said, and I found out today that he didn't re-up, and I immediately pecked out an email to him that was like, "What is wrong with you?" And but I get it. It is a big time commitment, and one of the things that I really like about John, and it's also something I really like and frankly miss about Gary Honcoop is, I'm pretty liberal guy, and John I don't think is a pretty liberal guy. Maybe I'm overstepping my bounds, but I think that we're probably on different sides of the political spectrum in many things. But it never, throughout the 4 years that John's been on the commission, it's never gotten contentious. It's never gotten anything outside of just being cordial and friendly, and there's not enough of that in our current society. So John, I certainly appreciate you. You're welcome to my house at any time. I will miss you on this council. You've become a good friend, and certainly thank you for your service.
And Commissioner Bartel.
Well, John, I jot down a few things here. Certainly a champion of the individuals, farming, business type of stuff. Heard you supporting all of those things or trying to advocate for them for sure. I think it's just been a real pleasure working with you, but that's not the real thing that bothers me about your leaving. Often, I sit back, I'm a quiet person, not some great orator. I like listening, thinking through what's going on, and then making a choice. And so often you were saying what I'm thinking, and that's going to be a real problem for me. I'm going to have to find the words and speak up on my own. So, and I feel like I'm getting more of a voice here, building a little bit more confidence. I'll get there. But, you know, again, I'm going to miss you. Really appreciate it, getting to know you and hearing all of your very worthwhile input. So wish you all my best.
Thank you. So please join me in a round of applause for John Mayberry. Right. Commissioner Desmonte, you wanted the floor right after this, so it's yours.
Sure, thank you for that. I forgot to mention two things. One is that I spoke to Jim Hansen briefly this week, and I just wanted to share his comments to Natalie, and that's he wanted to express his thanks for Natalie's knowledge and judgment, and he identified her as someone who's in local government has rare qualities as it relates to those public participation and involvement, and he considered you an inspiration. So there you go. You're an inspiration, Natalie. And the other thing is that Natalie, you had expressed to me the other day, maybe I'm not putting you on the spot, but Natalie's moved to Yakima where her son lives, and her grandkids are going to be the benefactors of this move, and maybe already are the benefactors of this move even today. But anyway, she offered me a special deal, and that was that her son is a co-owner of a brewery, and that the deal is that if I make the trip out to Yakima, that she'll buy the first beer. I'm wondering, out of my love and respect for my colleagues at the Planning Commission, we can extend that first beer honorarium to my colleagues on the Planning Commission too.
Absolutely. But you have to get to Yakima.
We have to get to Yakima, so maybe a road trip. What do you think, guys and gals?
I'm in.
In it for 'em.
All right. We'll have to check with who's going to be our parliamentarian now? Who's going to answer that question? Anyway, so I put some brief words together. I'd like to propose a resolution, and I'll read here from my other screen. The Whatcom County Planning Commission would like to express its appreciation for Natalie McClendon and her many years of service to the community, and in particular to the Planning Commission. Natalie exemplifies informed public participation and respect for her colleagues in the community. We appreciate you, Natalie. So that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bartel,
Absolutely, yes.
Commissioner Desmonte,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Masseri,
Yes.
Commissioner Barton.
Yes.
That is 6 yeses, that carries.
Commissioner Desmonte, did you have more?
No, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, okay. Director Personas, did you have any more? It's gone. Okay.
No, sir. I don't have anything more to say, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Any questions for Mark? All right. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Have a good meeting.
So we have now open session for public comment, and I am not seeing any attendees. So looks like there'll be no one speaking.
Natalie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Natalie, would you like to speak again?
No, I kicked her.
Natalie, would you like to, oh, that's right, you said you had a topic for us, but yes, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed, well,
You had that in public comment, you had some things you wanted to say.
oh, this is the public comment. Okay, great. Are we ready?
Yeah.
I'm Natalie McClendon. I reside in Yakima County, formerly Whatcom County. Having been involved with planning and comprehensive plans, et cetera, over the past 8 years, one of the things that I'm fully supportive of zoning and planning and knowing where we're going and making an agreement as a community. The one problem with zoning, however, is that it sort of locks you in, and it's hard to change. And we saw in the last couple months, the city of Sumas almost en masse flooded, devastating floods. And I've also been a proponent of not doing the same stupid thing over and over again. And I want to show you why I moved here. And that is rebuilding in a floodplain that's going to get flooded again and again. And so, but what the problem is that because of the zoning in the county and the Growth Management Act and you know, what we're trying to plan, there's not an automatic process where we revisit, well, why is Sumas in the floodplain? Maybe we don't want to rebuild there. Maybe that makes sense to do something new and move out of the floodplain. And what I would like to suggest to the Planning Commission is to talk about this and see if maybe you as a group can start the conversation in the community and then towards the council, that it is not a done deal that you rebuild in the floodplain and just get flooded out again. It could happen again this year. It could happen 2 years from now. You know, anyway, so it would involve the county saying to the city of Sumas, we know we've got these comp plans and we've got these boundaries. We're willing to consider some other option for the city if that's what they want to do. I'm coming at it from the perspective of the county government. Obviously, I'm not a member, resident of Sumas. So anyway, that's what I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other commissioner comments? What about that young commissioner there in the middle? Commissioner Masseri, go ahead.
I have a question. I don't know if Natalie or somebody else has the answer. Is there any examples of that happening in Washington State with our Growth Management Act and that kind of stuff, of cities relocating based on natural disasters?
I certainly don't know of any. I mean, we have hurricanes that blow whole shorelines away and they rebuild all the time. So it's just insanity.
Mark, is that a question that you're able to answer?
Yeah, I just wanted, years ago when I was a consultant, I worked on a project in the Hamilton area, right, on the upriver Skagit, that Hamilton is a community that suffers repetitive flood loss. And there's literally been tens of millions of dollars of FEMA money that just gets paid out year after year after year for people to get flooded and then to rebuild, and they get flooded and you get rebuild, and they get flooded and rebuild, and so the project was to outside of the floodplain, which we did the sort of the paperwork, the regulatory work to make that happen, to establish an urban growth area outside of the floodplain, and look at some alternatives and ways to do that. And we did that again on paper, but it's never been brought to fruition because of the expense, right? You have to literally move a community, and there's a lot of complicated legal aspects to it. And Hamilton is not a Sumas, it's right. Sumas is a larger community and an older community and a more established community. So, but obviously the floods we had in November and floods we had at the Super Bowl flood previous to that, and the floods we'll likely have in the future are certainly bring the conversation I think up on the front burner. So it's something I think the community will be talking about. Certainly we'll talk about it as a part of our next comprehensive plan update, because those 7 cities, as well as the unincorporated county, have to look at and look forward 20 years and how we're going to accommodate the next 20 years of growth, and how much growth, first of all, are we going to accommodate, and then where's it going to go? And so all those questions will be front and center, certainly for Everson, Nooksack, and Sumas, in terms of the resiliency of those communities against future flooding. And so we'll, I'm sure, be looking at mitigation strategies as well for the river management, as part of that process. So it's a big challenge, no doubt.
Thank you, Mark. Any other commissioner comments? Okay.
I just have one comment in regards to that, and that's that I'm not sure to what degree county and city councils have embraced policy around the word resilience, but I think it's necessary. And to some degree that supports what Natalie is talking about. And so I think if there is established policies around passed by county councils and city councils asking for plans going forward to add resilience as a factor, I think that might be helpful too. But I don't, and I guess that's really doesn't fit into the planning commission's agenda, but you can't ignore issues that are important to the community, of course.
Right, thank you. Seeing no other hands, let's move on to approval of the minutes for November 18th.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 18th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there any comments, additions, or corrections? Right, hearing none. Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bartel,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmonte,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayberry,
Abstain.
Commissioner Mosseri,
Abstain.
Commissioner Barton.
Yes.
That gives us a majority of those here tonight, 4 yeses, 2 abstaining. So that carries.
Right, and so now we'll move on. It's the proposed amendments to Whatcom County code. It's our code scrub, and we will hear from Cliff Strong. We will also have a public hearing. So Cliff, are you ready for us?
Sure. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Cliff Strong with Planning Development Services, and Happy New Year, everybody. I know it seems a long time ago that happened, but I wanted to also mention a couple of things that I don't think I heard Mark say. One was that the council has approved the Planning Commission's SMP update recommendations, and we've now forwarded that to the Department of Ecology for their final review. And once they do that, then the council can pass an ordinance to affect all those amendments you guys reviewed. And secondly, regarding what you guys were just talking about flooding, but also climate change and sea level rise. Chris over in Public Works and I applied for a grant to do a compound flooding sea level rise risk and vulnerability study. So we've actually started meeting on that already with the team. The funds become available in April, and so we're getting ready to kick that off. And it's basically using the model that Public Works used last year to predict the sea level rise. And we're going to use that in kind of a GIS exercise to figure out what infrastructure and what land uses might be at risk from compound flooding and sea level rise. So that is coming up for you. I mean, you guys won't be involved in it, but we'll keep you abreast of what's happening. So with that, let's get right into the meat of the meeting tonight. So tonight you're going to be holding a hearing and considering some amendments to titles 20 and 22 of the Whatcom County Code. That's zoning and land use and development, or permitting section. And this is our annual code scrub, as Mark mentioned, wherein we clean up various oddities and inconsistencies in the code. So kind of all year long, all the different staff email me suggestions or weirdnesses about the code, and then I bundle them all up and bring them to you in one package. And as you remember, we generally don't propose major policy changes through this process. There are a couple of minor policy changes I'll be pointing out to you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm sure you all have a copy of it, but it might be easier to go through this with you. So this first one here is just, it's really just cleaning up department and division names. So no policy changes in there. Anybody have a question about that? Okay. Second's another grammatical thing, changing inhabitable to habitable. Though they both mean the same thing, some staff found it confusing. So we're just deleting the two INs there. The first one that has some policy changes, though, is number 3. So unlike in our other zones, in the rural forestry district, the lot coverage section covers 2 concepts, both lot coverage and forest land retention. And in the other zones, the lot coverage is a maximum square footage of buildings one can have. But in this district, the lot coverage section includes everything that's not in forest product production. So that includes roads, other areas not containing roof structures, et cetera. So it's measured differently for some reason. And it's led to some confusion. So we're proposing to split this that existing section into 2 sections. So one just addressing lot coverage, and one taking out the forest land retention portions of that and moving it into its own section. And that part of it's not a policy change because we're basically keeping the same language, just tidying it up a little bit. But however, the policy change would be to, in this forest land retention part up here, it says you can't take out more than 20% of the lot area, but you can go higher if you use a CUP, a conditional use permit. Staff's proposing that we change that to a variance. And the reason is that there's been a lot of homes being built in this area. And many of them are applying for CUPs to clear cut a bunch of land just to get views. And that kind of thwarts part of the intent of this district to maintain some forestry. And if you to apply for a variance, there are different criteria than for a CUP, and the variance criteria require that you show a hardship. So why is it you need to cut all these trees down, and obtaining a view is not a hardship in most instances. So we think that might be better in terms of protecting our working forest, et cetera. And then we're also proposing to delete this zone has just special, it has its own unique conditional use permit criteria. We think it's a holdover from the 70s or something maybe. But most of them are the same criteria that we have in Title 22 for our conditional use permit. If you look at that chapter, you'll see most of them are in there. There's a few that talk about things that are already covered by other parts of the code. You know, providing entrances to public roads, providing reasonable sound and sight buffering, et cetera. That's already covered in most of the code. So we don't think this is necessary. It's just kind of duplicative and confusing. Any questions about that section? No? All right.
Commissioner Mayberry, we have one up there.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mayberry.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, as a working forest, couldn't you make the argument that you're just cutting it for lumber?
Well, in terms of being able to cut for lumber, you can get a DNR permit, but in terms of development, you're supposed to, this zone is intended to kind of preserve some of that area for forestry, but as well as, and I included the goal up here. So it's help people manage the forest, to protect that forest and protecting it from urban sprawl while preserving the potential for future urban development.
What's a normal lot size?
I think it's 40 acres, but I know Amy's on here and she'd know that off the top of her head better.
Thanks, Cliff. The minimum lot size in the rural forestry is 20 acres.
20 acres.
And this wouldn't affect that, or in this proposed change wouldn't have anything to do with that. This proposed change would only affect those who are proposing to develop and permanently remove parts for land from forestry. Anyone who is operating forest practices is absolutely can continue. There's no code change to that. It's when you remove land permanently from forestry uses that this code would apply.
Okay, so you could still, I mean, part of the reason, one of the main reasons people go buy a chunk and put a house on the hill there is so they can see. But on a 20-acre lot, you could still permanently remove 4 acres worth of. Okay.
Correct.
So you can still have a view. We won't have those bald hills as much. Okay.
Question, Commissioner Sarah has a question.
Yeah, I was just curious, how common is it that people are using this conditional use in this area to do that?
And again, that's an Amy question, so I'm going to let her answer.
I would say it was incredibly uncommon. I had never seen it. I'd never even seen this part of code, honestly, until we had an actual case of someone coming through and getting a conditional use permit. And it was off Academy Road because there's some parcels up there that are rural forestry. And there's also roads up there, and roads count on your removing from permanent forestry. And so since that time, we've actually seen a couple more of these applications come through, at least from the pre-application standpoint. And we wanted to make sure that people are getting this for the right reasons. They have a road through their property, which is part of that 4 acres, and that has nothing to do with them or where they want to put their house or anything. And just sort of want to clarify the code also, because nowhere else in the code do we combine this lot coverage with removal from forestry. And so it was just a really weird concept in the same condition.
All right, go ahead, Cliff.
Looks like Atul has a.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Atul.
Regarding this item number 3, rural forestry lot coverage, I am curious, would is it staff's opinion that a significant change as it relates to the percentage would be outside the scope of today's meeting and discussion around change of what that percentage should be is something that needs to come up in a separate context, or do you believe that? Because I'm wondering about this 20%, and I'm wondering about somewhat related to the point that Natalie brought up. There's floods and there's fires. Now, we've been lucky that in Western Washington, for the most part, we haven't experienced fires. But if you look at what's happening climate-wise, it's not unrealistic to expect that we're going to see fires in Western Washington, Western Whatcom County, in the next decade or two. And we also should be thoughtful about how much residential we put in the forest. So an academy is an excellent example. And the forestry around Lake Whatcom is an excellent example of the kind of area that could be made residential that would be a fire risk, in addition to the other points that were made about the need for protecting forest land, retaining forest land. So I can see that at some point it may be appropriate to discuss what percentage of even forestry land goes into and it gets cleared. So anyway, that's something just I wanted to bring up and ask about.
Yeah, so since this is the code scrub, we didn't really want to change any of the main policies of this thing. And I did run this past what remains of the council's Forestry Advisory Committee. They don't have enough people on it now to actually be a committee, but we ran it past those members who are still kind of active in helping shape policy. And they seem to think that this was an okay change to the code and wouldn't affect, they had a few questions that we answered for them, but they didn't seem to think it would affect what they're trying to protect, and that's maintaining working forests.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. The fourth one is the Mineral Lands Notification District. So back in 2003, council made a policy change to chapter 14, which is not in our zoning code or anything. So chapter 14, 06030B, and that's the mineral resource lands disclosure, to require that, if you're doing something on mineral lands, you have to notify folks that are within 500 feet. And it had been previously, it had been 300 feet, but the ordinance didn't change the notification requirements in the zoning code. So the zoning code also had that 300 feet. But since council changed it to 300 feet most recently, we thought we should go ahead and fix all the, where it said 300 feet in the zoning code to 500 feet. So it's a fairly minor change, and it's a policy choice that the council already made. So we're just trying to reiterate that. That makes sense to everybody?
Go ahead and continue, Cliff.
Okay. Number 5, kennels. So last year, the hearing examiner raised an issue with staff that throughout the code, we use kennel in different ways. And this table kind of shows we talk about accessory kennels, commercial kennels, just kennels, etc. And he thought that this was a problem because we only had the one definition of kennel that the council, I don't remember, it wasn't that long ago, adopted this definition, but we didn't have definitions for all these other ones, and they seem to mean the same thing basically. So what we're proposing to do here is to standardize the language in all the various zones and add a new definition of accessory kennel, because there does seem to be a difference between a full kennel and an accessory kennel, an accessory being 6 or less, I think it is. Yeah, or it doesn't even have a number, but it's accessory to like a veterinarian or an animal hospital, just to house over small numbers of overnight animals. So throughout this, it's just getting rid of all the different iterations of kennels and just saying kennels and stables, or kennels or accessory kennels wherever they're allowed. So for instance, here, Grimmers and accessory kennels. Does that make sense to folks?
Commissioner Dressman, you have a question for you.
Yeah, I just learned about that kennel that was built on Hannigan Road, just north of me, on just around 10 Mile in Hannigan, and how they built the whole facility before they had any kind of permits. And is there anything that you're doing in the code scribe to try to discourage that kind of activity?
And Amy, this is the one you've told me about. Amy?
Yeah, this would be definitely a kennel that we know of. We actually worked with the Planning Commission and the council to modify the code, and then went through permitting for that one, as well as code enforcement. It's a long history. What this will do, we haven't changed anything. That was more of a code enforcement issue than a code issue potentially. But what I think this will do is allow us to have one unified definition of a kennel. So when someone comes in and asks if they can have a kennel, we don't have to go through and see if a commercial kennel is different than an accessory kennel, is different than a veterinary kennel. That makes it a lot easier to implement the code, and makes it a lot easier to tell everyone exactly the same thing. So while not changing the code, really, hopefully we'll come up with much more consistent answers when questions come up.
Yeah, it really is just standardizing the language in all the various codes.
Thank you.
Yep. Kind of similarly, back in 2009, the council amended the definitions and standards for the different types of child care centers that we allow. They adopted these definitions. These are fairly new. But that ordinance that adopted those did not delete some existing definitions of daycare centers, different types of child care centers. So we're proposing to delete those old definitions now. Let's see, and and they also designated family daycare homes as an accessory use in the 9 zones where they're allowed, but failed to remove them as permitted use. So now they're listed as both in 5 of those zones. So we're proposing to delete family daycare homes as a permitted use in those 5 zones, leaving them as an accessory use. So doing this won't change in what district family daycare homes are allowed as an accessory use, and they're still listed in the UR, URM, URMX, RRI, RTZ, AG, NC, and the RGC zones. So it's really just cleaning stuff up, and again, based on the most recent council decision on policy. Questions?
Commissioner Maker, go ahead.
I'm just curious, does this expand, I guess, the definition of a daycare at all?
It does not change anything about what they are or how they're using, or how they're permitted. It's just getting rid of these old definitions. We had a different definition for family daycare home, a mini daycare center, and a daycare center, all listed under child care facilities. But we also have these definitions for daycare center, family daycare home, mini daycare center, and mini daycare home. These up here are the most recent ones that council adopted. They just failed to remove these older definitions and left them listed as both permitted and accessory uses when the ordinance clearly listed them all as accessory uses. They just didn't delete these things out of it. So it does not change anything, just cleans up code.
Okay. There was a rule passed a couple of years ago for buffers for certain ag activities that calls out daycares. So I just wanted to make sure we're not creating a new definition for someone that has 3 kids over at their house.
Nope. So because this is a code scrub, I don't take anything that's a major policy issue. We set those aside. In fact, I had at least 3 other things listed in here that we've decided to pull and run as their own code amendment because they rose to a level of kind of a more of a major policy decision for you guys. Again, another cleanup thing under the for the agricultural boundary line adjustments. There's a section near 254 that talks about separation of the farmstead parcel. It's the criteria for it. But the criteria kind of mixed and matched and talked about both. So in this, essentially all we're doing is those that apply only to agricultural short plats would be listed here. And those that apply only to boundary line adjustments are down here. The rest of these apply to both though. So it's really just making it distinct as to, what applies to short plats and what applies to boundary line adjustments. Because certain of those criteria wouldn't apply to one or the other.
Commissioner Masseri.
You have a question. It's not on the change. It's just when I was reading through it, I didn't fully understand it. Under item D, number 3, can you explain how that works and what the purpose of that is?
Yeah, so on an agricultural short plat, well, Amy, you're probably better at this than I because you process these and I don't.
Yeah, so are you speaking to the language that says the applicant and his or her heirs provide rights of purchase?
Yeah.
Oh, that one, okay.
So number 3 there, I actually have no idea where that came from. That language has been in the code for a really long time. I know that when we rewrote most of this code several years ago, that was, and we worked with the agricultural committee, they definitely wanted to keep that language in there. It's just something that we put on every agricultural short plat that we have, and that's just part of the code.
Commissioner Mayberry.
My guess is that if you're running a farm and you sell off a little chunk to be developed, you want to make sure that the people that live there aren't going to cause you problems. So you get to kind of pick who gets to live in that residence. And then if they decide to sell that house, that they have the opportunity to buy it and then basically control who lives there, because we have a lot of really good neighbors and then we have some that aren't so fun either. So it's probably to protect functioning ag.
Yes, as a little bit of context, the agricultural short plats are where we have an existing parcel in the agricultural zone. It has a single family residence on it and it has an operating or ongoing ag. We can do a subdivision of that and create a 1 to 3 acre parcel with the home on it. And then we can leave the remainder, has to be more than 10 acres in ag. And we have this, it used to be a retiring farm worker exemption we used to have, and we've changed it to this agricultural short plat. It happens a lot. We do a lot of these because it also allows a farmer to split off the house and for mortgage and financing purposes from the agricultural piece, again, for financing purposes. So theoretically, you could split the 2 off. You could sell the remainder that's being used for agriculture. And then when you go to sell that homestead or farm where the house actually is, you give the remainder parcel, whoever owns that first right of refusal.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? And then the last one is just, again, it's cleaning up some language. This section here 2205-100. So we have 120 days to process permits, but the time, the clock stops at certain points. Like if we ask for more information, the clock stops. And there's we give somebody a certain amount of time to respond to those things, to our request for additional information. And if they don't respond, then we can close out the file. However, there is a way to request more time to do that. And the language just wasn't that clear as to how that happens. So we're just trying to clear that language up so that it's clearer for the applicants and for staff. So again, not changing policy, just cleaning up language.
So commissioners, are there any other clarifying questions? And then we need to go to a public hearing and then we can discuss it. So any more clarifying questions for Cliff and Amy? Okay, we'll stop with that and we will open the public hearing. And I have not seen any attendees. But if there's any attendees, your time to speak. Seeing no attendees, I'm going to close the public hearing. And commissioners, it's up for discussion. Commissioner Desmani.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we adopt these proposed changes along with the associated findings of fact.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept these changes along with the findings of fact. Are there any discussion, commissioners? I see Commissioner Desmani still has his hand up there. Okay, I see. Very good. Any discussion? Are we ready to vote on it? Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Bartel,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmani,
Yes,
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Mosseri,
Yes.
Commissioner Barton.
Yes.
That is 6 yeses, so that carries.
Is there any other business?
and that was kind of anticlimactic. We should have argued over something.
Commissioner Mayberry?
I just wanted to say, if this is our last meeting, it's been a pleasure to serve with all you guys. Got a lot of respect for all of you, even staff. You guys do a great job. So thank you. And I hope to see you guys around.
Hey, John, I'm going to propose a resolution at our next meeting, so maybe you can show up for 5 minutes at the beginning of our next meeting. At least you can be there in person to get the
accolades.
accolades.
You don't need to do that, man. But yeah, I'll see if I can find time in my schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Meeting is
Thanks,
adjourned.
commissioners.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.